Picture this, the ancient Near East, a melting pot of kingdoms and empires, each vying for power and resources. Warfare was a constant reality. It's a bit like rush hour traffic, but with swords and chariots instead of cars. Deuteronomy 20 emerges in this context, offering guidelines for the Israelites as they prepare to enter Canaan, the promised land. Remember, this isn't a manual for world domination. It's about securing a homeland after years of wandering in the wilderness. The chapter reflects a society where warfare, while a necessary evil, is governed by a divine framework. It's about balancing military pragmatism with moral considerations. Imagine trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. That's the challenge Deuteronomy 20 addresses. It's vital to remember these weren't simply abstract rules. They were intended for a real-life context, with real-life consequences. So let's don our historian hats and explore the specifics of this fascinating chapter. Let's dive into Deuteronomy 20. It starts by addressing the fear soldiers face before battle. Priests offered encouragement, reminding troops that God was with them. Then come the rules of engagement. The text outlines exemptions from fighting. Those who built a house, planted a vineyard, or were engaged to be married were excused. These exemptions preserved society's fabric. Israelites were instructed to offer peace before battle. This showed restraint and aimed to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. So, let's talk exemptions. Deuteronomy 20 lists several groups exempt from military service. Newlyweds, for instance, got a year's grace. Imagine the honeymoon. This exemption highlights the importance of family and procreation in Israelite society. Those who'd built a new house or planted a vineyard were also exempt. It's like getting a pass on jury duty because you just remodeled your kitchen. This rule ensured people could enjoy the fruits of their labor, literally, and contribute to the nation's prosperity. These exemptions, though seemingly random, paint a picture of a society that valued life beyond the battlefield. It wasn't just about conquering, it was about building, growing, and living. It's a refreshingly humane perspective amidst the harsh realities of war. Victory in battle often brought the spoils of war, land, resources, and sometimes captives. Deuteronomy 20 provides guidelines on how to treat conquered cities and their inhabitants. It's a topic that requires a delicate touch, even today. The chapter distinguishes between cities far off and those belonging to the nations God commanded the Israelites to dispossess. The former could be offered peace and, if accepted, become tributary states. The latter, however, were to be utterly destroyed, a chilling decree that has sparked much debate and interpretation. Some scholars suggest this directive was specific to the Canaanite nations, who were perceived as a threat to Israel's religious and moral purity. Others argue it reflects the brutal realities of ancient warfare, where total annihilation was not uncommon. Regardless of interpretation, it's essential to remember that Deuteronomy 20's instructions were delivered in a specific historical and cultural context, vastly different from our own. It's a reminder that understanding the past requires empathy and nuance, not just judgment. Deuteronomy 20, like much of the Old Testament, presents us with moral and ethical dilemmas that continue to be debated today. The command to utterly destroy certain cities, for example, raises questions about God's justice, the nature of war, and the treatment of enemies. These are not easy questions, and there are no easy answers. It's essential to approach these passages with sensitivity and humility, recognizing that our modern sensibilities may not fully align with God's divine wisdom. It's also worth noting that even within the Old Testament, there are different perspectives on warfare and violence. The prophets, for instance, often challenged the glorification of war and called for peace and justice. Ultimately, Deuteronomy 20 invites us to grapple with complex issues that have plagued humanity for centuries. It reminds us that the journey towards a more just and compassionate world is ongoing and requires constant reflection and dialogue. You might be thinking, what does Deuteronomy 20 have to do with me? It's a fair question. While we're not facing chariot charges, the principles in this text offer valuable insights. The emphasis on restraint in warfare and the call for peace resonate with modern just war theory and humanitarian law. The focus on the sanctity of life serves as a reminder in a world plagued by violence. It challenges us to seek peace, protect the vulnerable, and view war as a last resort. Deuteronomy 20 offers timeless ethical principles that transcend cultural boundaries. Are you ready for the next chapter? Just click here to go straight to it.